Hello guys, welcome back to the series of tutorials on C++. I am Deepak, and if you have been following me since the beginning of this tutorial series, you might be knowing that we have discussed a lot of things starting from the OO features, then we discussed about friend functions, operator overloading, inheritance, and finally we talked about polymorphism. So now if you keep reading and watching my videos, I think you are not going to learn a lot. So there are things that you need to follow. So one of them is you need to program something so that you can apply those things that you have learned in this course and then make some good project. So that is the first thing. Second thing is I have thought of providing you some quizzes and some assignments. So you can see this is assignment number 5. So there are 4 other assignments that I have given to you. If you haven't access to them, I will provide a link in description of this video and then you can attempt them. But right now let's go through this quiz. I am not giving PDF of this quiz to you. So what we are going to do here, I will show you the questions. You can watch the video and then answer in the comments. So what you have to do, like this is first question and you have to write the output of this program, right? So you need to see this program, try to solve it in your copy or take some pen or pencil or try to solve it on a paper. Then find out the reason for that. Put that answer in the comment along with the reason of that. Let's have a discussion there. Right? So this will be the good way to learn something. If you try to run this program on your system, that will not be a good part of this exercise. Because here we are trying to test your concepts and not the way you write your programs, right? Because if you write this program in your system, of course that is going to give a correct answer. But that means answer is correct, but you don't know the reason behind that. So this is the first question. You can see we have 2 pages here. So there are 4 questions right now in front of you. You have to just look at the first question. So this is class test and there are 2 variables and then we are asking size of this test and test is this class. So every time we are creating some objects and classes, compiler need to be sure of the size of that object. So what will be the size of this test? You need to find out that and put that in the comment. So one thing that you need to look into this carefully is this static keyword. Clear? So this static is going to change something that you need to look for. Coming to second question, you can see we have a base class 1, then there is a constructor for base 1, then class base 2, constructor for base 2, and it's printing some message. This is plain and simple, nothing else here. Then there is a derived class which is inheriting base 1 and base 2, and after that there is the constructor of derived class. Now we are creating object of derived class only. So you have to find out which constructor is going to be called first and second, and according to that you have to write your answers. Coming to third question, it's a similar question, but in this case there is a class P, then Q is inheriting from P and then R is inheriting from Q. So it's basically a chain, P on top, then Q and then R. And we are only creating object of this R class. So you have to find out what should be the output of this program. So coming to fourth question, here is a class point which has 2 variables x and y, and then there is a constructor. We have closed the class here, you can see definition ends here, and then we are defining this constructor outside. So I hope you are aware that when you want to define any function or constructor of a class outside, you have to write name of that class, then scope resolution operator, and after that you can write simply as you write inside the class. So here we are assigning variable I and j to the x and y, and then we are printing a message. So the important point here is how many times this constructor call will be printed. You can see we are creating an object here which is t1 and then there is pointer t2. So you have to think whether constructor call is going to be printed at 1 time or 2 time and find out the reason for that. Coming to fifth question, so there are 2 kind of constructors here. One is normal constructor, another is copy constructor. And you can see we are creating some objects here. Now what you have to do, You have to just tell the output at which line this normal constructor is going to be called and at which line this copy constructor is going to be called. So if you go back to our previous lectures, we have discussed about normal constructor, we have discussed about default constructor and then copy constructor. So basically there are three type of constructors, right? So just look at that and find out the answer from this thing. Now coming to this sixth question. This is very simple program, doesn't have much to do with C++, but you have to learn about static keyword here. And this static keyword is a key that will change the answer or that will change your thinking in this process. So let's have look at this and try to answer it. Now coming to seventh question. So here these two things are fixed. One is start and end. This is going to be printed. But here you have to look at this test T1. So whether the constructor is going to be called here or not, that is the main question, right? Or whether this program is going to give us some error. So see this program carefully and write the answer in comment. Similarly, this question. So here you can see we are creating a constant object and then we are calling a function on this object. So just write your answer in the comment that whether this program is going to give us an error or it will run fine, right? So if this program will give error, why that error is coming? And if there is no error, why there is no error? Clear? Now coming to the ninth question. Again you have to tell whether it will run fine or there will be some error. If there is some error, how can you rectify that? Now there is 10th question and you have to tell output of this. Generally it's not allowed to do this thing here, means initialization of variables, but whether this will work with the static or not, you have to look at that and tell me in the comment sections. Now coming to the 11th question. Here we have a class test1 having one variable int x, class test2 having int x. So these both classes are different classes. There is no inheritance involved here. And then we are trying to find out the size of test1 and test2. So you can just look at this and check the size of this program. So it will come in the bytes, whether 4 bytes or 8 bytes or 16 bytes. So you need to find out that and tell me the reason in comment section. Now this 12th question. Here you can see we have a base class and then we have a derived class which is inheriting from this base class, and here we are creating object of this derived class. So just look at this program carefully. We have discussed this thing in our last lecture, so you can just have a look at this and then tell me the answer. In 13th question you have to look whether this is going to provide some error or not, and if there is error, what should be the reason behind that. So just look at this. Then 14th question, it is also dependent on inheritance or we can say polymorphism. So there is virtual function fun in class A, then B is inheriting from that and then C is inheriting from that, and then we are creating some objects. So it's also a very simple question. Just look at this and try to answer the question in comments. Now coming to the last question of this quiz, you have to look at this program carefully and tell me whether this program is going to give some output or not, or if there is some error or not. If there is some error, just try to find out that error and try to rectify that. So for all these questions, I have taken references from Geeks for Geeks and Detail and Detail, which is a very good book for C++. So you can refer these two things, Geeks for Geeks and C++ How to Program 8th edition of Paul Detail and Harvey Detail. It's recommended that you don't cheat for this, means you just don't copy the answer from somewhere and paste it in the comments. You are allowed to discuss with your friends and learn somewhere, but you should have understanding of this complete thing, right? So let's wind up this tutorial right now. If you have any doubt or query regarding any of the questions, you can always ask in the comments and I will try to respond back as soon as possible. So guys, see you in the next video with some new concept, or I will try to solve this quiz after few lectures. Till then you can keep trying and keep solving these questions, right? So let's meet in the next lecture. Till then, thank you so much.